All right, so I don't have a lot of new stuff that I'm really itching to review at the moment. So that means we're going to go back and take a look at some Motu Classics figures, particularly this big honking thing back here. This is the Roton that came out at the end of 2016. He comes with the Skelcon figure that's kind of long awaited, the mythical, almost never released vehicle and figure. And I got two of them. So we're going to take a look at the box, obviously. This thing comes in an amazing box with some awesome vintage style Motu artwork. We've got the Roton with the Skelcon. We've got Wind Raider. We got the Castle Grayskull. There's just a lot going on here. I think it's an awesome presentation. And I haven't opened this one yet, so we're going to have two in this video at some point. We've got the artwork on the side with a shot of the item. We've got a bio, which is, you know, weird towards the end of the line, and then all these product shots with more images down here, and then we've got some more stuff on the other side. So I would say we're going to crack this one out, but we're not going to. We're going to look at this one. So let's take a look. All right, guys, so here they are, and we've got our Skelcon figure, our army builder that is unfortunately packaged with a very expensive vehicle, and the Roton itself. So we're going to take a look at the Skelcon figure first, and then we'll take a look at the Roton, because there's not tons to talk about with the Skelcon. It's a pretty basic figure. It just has a lot going for it in terms of cool factor as far as I'm concerned. So let's move the Roton aside and take a look at the Skelcon figure. All right, so this figure, it's not really a character. It's a generic, you know, army builder type figure. He is from the Ladybird Motu books, so it's pretty obscure character in terms of, you know, the mythos of Masters of the Universe, but I still think he's pretty cool. He's got a lot going for him. He's still a pretty basic figure, but I really dig this design. So articulation, I'm not even going to go over it. It is all the same kind of stuff you're used to on a Motu Classics figure. There's nothing new, nothing groundbreaking here, except for the fact that the horns are articulated, but, you know, are you really going to do anything with that? I don't do anything with it. They stick straight up for me. The big thing for me is just the overall aesthetic of this figure. I think he's really cool. I like the, you know, the kind of, it's almost like, you know, some sort of demonic kind of cow skull type head that he's got, and I really like it. I like the bone look of him. He's very much, you know, a Skeletor minion type of character, and I can appreciate that. The only thing that really sucks for this figure is that he comes packaged with a vehicle that costs $125 at full price. So, you know, that's kind of a pain point for a lot of people. He has two accessories. He's got this knife, which is really prone to sticking in the sheath. It is way too tight. It's just metallic silver with some brown paint and a bone hilt on it, which has some nice like weathering paint on it. I like it. Be careful though. You can kind of scratch the armor piece that he has with the paint off of the hilt. So I've done that, obviously. And then we've got this pretty cool looking spear, which stands actually taller than the figure. A lot of detail on it. It's got that pointed end with the frayed edges as it goes down, with some bone stock for the upper portion of the pole arm itself, with a little bit of like a kneecap or something sticking out of it, and then the rest is just a metallic silver. Now he can hold it in both hands. The left is more open than the right, so it's really meant to be held in the right, but if you kind of position it correctly, he will be able to hold it, and you can kind of have it sitting in his hand, depending on how you want to do it. Just depends on how you want to have him positioned. But in general, it's probably better to have it in his right hand. Yeah. As far as the figure itself, there isn't, like I said, there isn't a ton going on here. He's got the non-booted feet. He doesn't have like the webbed kind of feet. It's the more demonic, what are these, the Demo Man style feet. And then he's got this armor piece that sits over top of him. You can remove it if you want. It's kind of like a feathered look. There is a bit of a wash in it, but not much. And then he's got this kind of skull belt that leads into the same style for the loincloth. One thing to note, and it's something that I didn't really notice until I took him out of the Roton, is that over time this will kind of warp as he sits in it. If you have him piloting the Roton, I'm not sure why I didn't think about it to begin with, but he's going to sit like this over time, and when you pull him out, you're going to have the loincloth that's going to stick up until it kind of resets itself. So just something to take note of. The big thing, though, is in terms of just overall detail, is going to come down to the head, just because it's a unique head. There's a lot of paint on it for what it is. Kind of some shading. We got the yellow in the eyes, and then we've got those individually painted white teeth, which I think stand out really well. And overall, I just like the design of him, so that's all I really needed. He looks cool. I've got a few of these. But the only thing, again, for the 100th time, that sucks about this figure is you can only get him in this particular vehicle pack-in, which is a little bit of a bummer. All right, and here is the Roton itself. So this is essentially the Classics version of the vintage Roton vehicle. So this existed in the vintage line. I didn't have it. I didn't have any vintage Motu vehicles as a kid because I was pretty much too young to really be in Motu at the time it was at its highest point. So I've seen the Roton itself. It's obviously smaller than this. This is a rather large vehicle. It's about a foot across from spine to spine here. It has a removable canopy, and this is a nod to the vintage model kit. That's where the canopy comes from. The actual toy itself doesn't have that, the vintage toy. I think it's cool. I'll leave it on just to not have to box it up and put it away. It comes on a stand that is similar to the Wind Raider stand. I'm going to pull this off again. And it is, prepare for loud sound, it is ratcheted. And it holds its shape pretty well. I haven't any issues with it. It will pop out. And when you have it on a flat surface, it will roll and the blades will spin. Let me pan down a bit to show you a little better. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that's a really cool idea. I like the fact that it has that play feature in there, and it works really, really well. As far as the vehicle itself goes, I really have zero complaints with this thing. I think it's really cool looking. It's a weird design, but it's a cool design. They kind of changed up the face on the Roton a bit to be a little more mean. The original vintage one isn't quite so mean looking. It has two removable cannons that you can put in these two different spots. I'm not sure why we needed this, but you have the option. And then there is just a lot of detail on here. There's a lot of paint on this thing, even on the spots that are red on red, like these spikes and these inner workings of the blade of the saw. It has a metallic red paint on it. There is a lot of green on here. We've got some kind of exposed piping and wiring that's painted, and then the inside of the kind of the control panel, it could have been a sticker like we've seen with other vehicles before, but this is fully sculpted, fully painted, and I think it looks really, really good. I don't have any issues with paint bleed or anything like that. Overall, it just looks really, really nice. There is, the overall kind of monster machine type of look that they have going for it here, with kind of the scaly look to the backside, and with obviously the monster head on the front. So I think overall, I think it's really, really neat, and it's a cool looking different design, because even amongst the other Motu vehicles, especially in the Classics line from what we got, this thing kind of stands out, and it's definitely the one evil specifically evil vehicle that we got in the line. Now, as far as putting a figure in, pretty much any figure will fit in here. That's as far as the normal kind of figures, and they'll just sort of sit in there, and you can get them to grasp the handles. I'm not really going to go through all the troubles of doing that. It can be a bit of a chore sometimes to get them to hold onto it just right, but they will hold onto them and they will sit in there just fine, and then you can have them roll on through. So I think overall, the whole design that they've got going for it here is really nice. And then of course you can put the canopy back on. I find that when I have a Skelcon in, you'll probably have to actually use those articulated horns to get him to fit in there. But then once he's in, he's in. So, how cool is that? You really can't go wrong with this vehicle. So at the end of the day, outside of the fact that Mattel made the obviously bad business decision to pack a army builder in with a vehicle that is this expensive, I do like the set. I like the Roton. I like the figure. Outside of the fact that, they don't really belong together, it's a cool package. We get an awesome, awesome presentation on the box art. We get a solid stand. We get an excellent vehicle that has a play feature, and we get a unique figure that to me really stands out on the shelf. I love the Skelcon. So I liked it enough that I had to get a second one, if that tells you anything. So that is going to do it for this look at the Motu Classics Roton and Skelcon set from Mattel. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.